Welcome to today's exploration of the Dhammapada, one of the most revered texts in Buddhist teachings. In the next few minutes, we will be diving into the first 5 chapters of the Dhammapada, which offer profound wisdom and practical lessons to bring peace, mindfulness, and balance into our daily lives. You may have heard of the Dhammapada before. For those new to it, let me introduce you to this sacred text. It is a collection of the Buddha's sayings, composed in a poetic form that makes it accessible and easy to understand. The Dhammapada presents key Buddhist teachings that help us understand the nature of the mind, actions, suffering, and ultimately, the path to enlightenment. As we walk through the first 5 chapters together, I invite you to reflect on how these timeless teachings can be applied in your own life. The Buddha's wisdom doesn't belong to any one time or place. It's as relevant today as it was thousands of years ago. Are you ready? Let's dive into these beautiful, transformative teachings. Chapter 1. The Twin Verses, the Power of Mind. The opening chapter of the Dhammapada is dedicated to the mind and its transformative power. In the very first verses, the Buddha points out that our thoughts shape our reality. Mind precedes all mental states. Mind is their chief. They are all mind-wrought, he says. This profound statement reminds us that our thoughts, more than our circumstances, create the quality of our life. The Buddha explains that just as a carpenter shapes wood with tools, we shape our experience of life with our thoughts. Negative thoughts lead to negative experiences, while positive, clear thoughts lead to joy and peace. This principle highlights one of the core teachings of Buddhism, mindfulness. By becoming mindful of our thoughts, we can begin to train our minds to respond with wisdom and compassion rather than react with anger or fear. Practical insight. Take a moment today to observe your thoughts. What are they focusing on? Do they lead to feelings of peace or disturbance? Understanding how thoughts shape your reality can be a transformative practice. If you notice negative thoughts, try gently replacing them with more constructive or positive ones. Chapter 2. The Buddha, the Path to Awakening. The second chapter of the Dhammapada introduces the Buddha himself and his path to awakening. It shares the profound realization that the Buddha experienced while meditating under the Bodhi tree. His enlightenment was the result of diligent effort, wisdom, and compassion. This chapter emphasizes that every being has the potential to attain awakening by following the path of righteousness, generosity, and mindfulness. One of the Buddha's core teachings was that all beings have the potential for greatness. This doesn't mean that we are all inherently perfect, but rather that we have the capacity to awaken from the illusions that bind us to suffering. The Buddha's journey to awakening was not an overnight success. It took years of dedicated practice and overcoming countless obstacles. But the key takeaway here is that enlightenment is not reserved for a select few. It is open to anyone who is willing to follow the path. Practical insight. The Buddha teaches that the path to awakening is available to anyone who strives for it. Begin by incorporating small practices of mindfulness, kindness, and reflection into your daily life. Don't worry about attaining perfection. Instead, focus on progress. Every step counts on the path to wisdom. Chapter 3. The Mind and the Body. Harmony between the two. Chapter 3 of the Dhammapada explores the relationship between the mind and body. The Buddha teaches that our physical body, while important, is not the ultimate source of our happiness. True peace comes from understanding and mastering the mind. The body, though necessary for our physical existence, is merely a temporary vessel that will eventually decay. This chapter reminds us that we should not be overly attached to the body or material possessions, as they are impermanent. Instead, the Buddha encourages us to cultivate a strong, disciplined mind, which will allow us to transcend the fleeting nature of the physical world and find true contentment within ourselves. The Buddha highlights the importance of bodily health, not for vanity or excess, but for clarity of mind. Through mindfulness of the body, we can learn to be present in the moment and develop a balanced approach to life that nourishes both our physical and mental well-being. Practical insight. Pay attention to the balance between the mind and body. Are you taking care of your health not just for the sake of appearance, but for mental clarity? A strong, healthy body supports a sharp, calm mind. Incorporate mindfulness practices like deep breathing, yoga, or meditation to foster balance between the mind and body. Chapter 4. The Four Noble Truths. Understanding Suffering. In Chapter 4, the Buddha delves into the Four Noble Truths, which form the foundation of Buddhist philosophy. The Four Noble Truths explain the nature of suffering, its causes, the possibility of its cessation, and the path leading to freedom from suffering. 1. Suffering exists. The first truth recognizes that suffering is an inherent part of life. From birth to death, we all face various forms of suffering, whether physical, emotional, or existential. 2. The cause of suffering. The second truth reveals that suffering is caused by craving or attachment. Our desire for things to be permanent, for pleasure, or for control leads to dissatisfaction. 3. The cessation of suffering. The third truth offers hope, showing that suffering can be overcome. By letting go of our attachments and desires, we can achieve a state of peace. The path to the end of suffering. The final truth is the Eightfold Path, which provides a practical framework for leading a life of wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. The Four Noble Truths remind us that suffering is not an anomaly. It is part of the human experience. But more importantly, they offer a clear, actionable path to liberation. Practical insight. Reflect on the areas of your life where you may be attached to desires or outcomes. By practicing non-attachment and letting go of the need for control, you can experience a deeper sense of peace. The Buddha's teaching gives us the tools to understand suffering, embrace impermanence, and find peace amidst the chaos of life. Chapter 5. The Dangers of Negative Emotions. Cultivating Positive Qualities. In Chapter 5, the Buddha addresses the dangers of negative emotions such as anger, jealousy, and hatred. These emotions poison the mind and prevent us from finding peace. When we hold on to negative feelings, they control us. The Buddha teaches that true strength comes from mastering our emotions and cultivating positive mental states like compassion, kindness, and wisdom. The Buddha emphasizes that our emotions are a result of our attachments and reactions to external circumstances. Rather than allowing these emotions to dictate our actions, we can choose to respond with understanding, patience, and compassion. This process requires self-awareness, mindfulness, and the ability to detach from the triggers of our emotional responses. Practical insight. Observe how negative emotions arise in your life. Are they triggered by certain situations, people, or thoughts? Instead of reacting impulsively, take a moment to pause, breathe, and respond with compassion. This simple practice can transform your interactions and your experience of the world. As we reflect on the teachings in chapters 1 through 5 of the Dhammapada, we see a clear and transformative message. The path to peace and wisdom starts with the mind. By cultivating mindfulness, letting go of attachments, and responding to life with compassion, we can overcome suffering and find true happiness. The Dhammapada provides timeless wisdom that can be applied to every aspect of life, from our personal relationships to our inner peace. It teaches us that we are the architects of our reality, and that with right understanding and right action, we can live a life free from suffering and full of joy. I encourage you to take the teachings of the Dhammapada into your daily life. Start by observing your thoughts and emotions. Practice mindfulness and meditation. Cultivate kindness and compassion in every interaction. In doing so, you'll not only change your life, but also the lives of those around you. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the first 5 chapters of the Dhammapada. May the wisdom of the Buddha guide you towards peace, happiness, and enlightenment. Practical action for transformation. Begin each day with a moment of mindfulness. Set an intention to cultivate positive thoughts and release negativity. Engage in daily practices of meditation to strengthen your mind. Let go of attachments to outcomes and allow life to unfold naturally. Practice kindness and compassion towards yourself and others. With these practices, you'll gradually experience the transformative power of the Buddha's teachings, bringing peace and wisdom into your life.